What is up, guys? Fado82 coming at you with another episode of Rust Cribs. A peculiar thing happened to me this morning. Just as I reached into my pocket to make sure my dick was still there, I saw two broken twigs on the ground, shaped like the letters P and H. It was a sign, I'm sure, for me to make another episode of Rust Cribs. I have been working all day over these hellish flames. Locked in the furnace room, he saw the world, a web of flames, and dicks on the wall. Welcome, guys, to another episode of Rust Cribs. If any of you can decipher what I just said and link it back to the source material, I will love you forever. Getting into this episode of Rust Cribs, we're taking a look at the base of Destiny, a player who is possibly a predictor of his future. He built this base to defend from a raid. It has some teeth to it. It has many defensive positions, many battle stations on it. It was built with a raid in mind, and hopefully one will come his way. I'd love to see a raid camp at this location. Absolutely gnarly base, though. We have the ladder hatches that go down and give them vantage points if any raiders are coming up to the entry points, and also those doors and the windows and the stairs on the upper level allow them to get up and get vantage points at any point in time. It has a 360-degree view radius. Its back is to the ocean, and the front of it is in a valley area where they don't have any mountains directly above it. And this, guys, is a wonderful base design that a lot of players put a lot of effort into. Something I'm going to be focusing on, a motif in this episode of Rust Cribs, is furnace rooms like we took a look at in the first base here, Destiny's base. They look like dungeons. They look like players are toiling over those hellish flames, and indeed they are, putting together those compounds necessary to make C4, make rockets, whatever it is that they're interested in. Now, this episode of Rust Cribs, guys, is reflective of new content, new bases in the current wipe cycle, and this is not going to be something with the old bases. So if you're looking for your old base, it will be coming in a future episode, but I wanted to start this one fresh with the changes because with the experience system, bases might be looking a little bit different. I'll let you guys be the decider of that as watchers of the Rust Cribs content. I think they look by and large mostly the same, maybe slightly smaller compounds. Now, this episode isn't the best predictor of a one-week wipe cycle because I believe some experience did carry over. The map was wiped, but there was some kind of controversy over whether experience would be kept or not on servers, and with the community, they voted to keep some of it. So the players that you're looking at right now, they are the GBK clan. They have a compound here that has multiple bases. One of them's a cave base with some naughty players who are stacking some boxes there. But they absolutely love corn. They again have a resource or a furnace room down here that is cooking. These rooms, guys, are places where players come together. They're very communal, and Rust is a game that is very hard to put into words, but one of the things that happens in Rust when you're building these bases is you really come together with people. They don't happen overnight, even in large clans, and whether you're a base builder, a sentry on guard duty, or someone gathering resources, you have a connection to the base. It doesn't matter if you're the designer or not. These bases matter a lot to Rust players. It takes them a long time to build them, and that's the best thing that I can do with the Rust Cribs series, is show some of these bases off and the hard work of players. But this base here is by DMG, by Dirt McGirt and crew, and it's a nasty ass looking base as well. It's uniform in just about every direction here, so it looks like it's very predictable in terms of the path that they planned that raiders would take. And it looks also like a hard base to raid. Would love to see a raid at that location. That would make for an epic raid cam. But we'll see if people have the resources to raid a base like that. That, again, with the new experience system, is something that remains to be seen. Inside the base, members have their own distinct rooms or their own signage, which is typical of a lot of large clans. It's interesting to add your own individual flair to these bases, and that's something that is really fun to see from wipe cycle to wipe cycle. The base that we're taking a look at now is one that takes advantage of part of the winter biome here. It's not built in the winter biome necessarily, but it does gain advantage from that because players that have to move up to this base will have to walk through that area, which makes them more prone to the elements. If they don't have building privilege and can't throw down a campfire, it is hard to exist in those areas. The back of the base is to the water, which gives them a place they don't have to really worry about raiders coming from. But there is a tower up here that looms ominous as we can see through the fog. It's unknown whether this is a friendly tower or a tower that was built here to oppress that location, so that's something that may be a problem for that base, but again, I don't know the backstory. If you guys know, please fill it in the comments below. One of the coolest things about this location was they built some furnaces here which caught the excess material that flowed down to the bottom here. As with all things in Rust, it became something very grand in scale, and it was a 3-floor factory, furnace factory. What would you guys call this if it were something in Minecraft? What is the name for it? A collector? A farm? I don't quite know, but... Alright guys, now we're moving on over and we're taking a look at some smaller scale base designs that you could put together with maybe 3 to 5 buddies in Rust in a wipe cycle. I often get criticized in the Rust Cribs comments that I don't give enough love to smaller bases and I only show compounds. So let's look at some bases. Pound for pound, the best ones you can find are not going to be something like this, which is a tower that fell very easily. But the ones we're going to show you in a minute, we're going to show you 3 different bases that you can consider, and each of them have elements incorporated into them that you want to take note of. Something like this is not something, guys, you want to do, of course. This is a basic tip, but that can be boosted into very easily. Players can get up onto your top floor through the window very, very quickly. So when building a base, you always want to think about how it's going to be rated or how it could be rated and start from there. That's a tactic a lot of you guys already know, but if it's not something you think about when building, start thinking about it in that way. You can certainly build bases like this one just to have a good time and have fun with it, but they won't be the most secure, and you have to consider what you want out of your Rust experience. You can't just play Rust to have fun. But if you want to have a secure base and one that's going to be able to be easily defended with the least amount of resources, think of something like this. Pound for pound, this is an awesome base. It's uniform in every direction. It has on each breach point, each entry point, it's going to have 2 high exterior stone gateways that they've been able to incorporate into this small base design. They've also used the high exterior stone walls on it. So that's something, guys, in the early on with the experience system you're not going to be able to have. But once you acquire those and learn those and can craft those, then when you can put a base together like this, it doesn't require a lot of resources if you have a group of 3 to 5 people. And this is a very effective base. You can get up onto the roof easily through that ladder hatch. It also uses ladder hatches as a way to get down quickly on top of those high exterior stone gateways, so you can shoot from those points, and also just open up those hatchways if people are using those as the breach points to go through, which typically would be the way they're going to go. So you can open up the ladder hatch, shoot down, close it, and it's very effective. This base here is an example of something very similar to what we just saw, but a little bit different in its design. Has, again, very good defensive points from the top to the bottom of it, and it's going to be a base that is one that wouldn't be super hard to put together with a small group. It doesn't have a lot of walls surrounding it. It's not as secure as the one we saw previously, but still a solid design. This design here is layered up with those high exterior stone walls, but what I liked about this design is it had a separate room, a separate house rather, or building for the crafting stations for the furnace out there, so it didn't have to take up space in the main base, and they could allow more space for members to live in and to move through that space. This base here incorporates it all. This is Beardcore's design. This is a great base for a solo player, perhaps maybe, or for a small group, and it's one that has a 360-degree firing radius, so you can see what's going at any point in time and defend from any direction. It has the furnaces and all the crafting stuff incorporated into the base itself. Takes advantage of a stream on one side of it, so it gives Beardcore one angle that he doesn't have to worry about quite as much as the others. And he didn't build it too close to the base of the mountain, so it's not going to make him getting direct fire from the mountain range. Very effective. Also, guys, consider if you have a smaller group to take advantage of caves. Cave bases are ones that can go up very effectively and quickly with the new experience system. You can wall off a cave rather easily, and when you make it stone, it's going to be very hard to get into, and then you can start building upon it from there. You can start building piece by piece once you get that first layer walled up. Moving on over here, we're taking a look at CML's furnace room. Again, guys, furnace rooms are so important, at least for me, because they really made an impression on me in Rust. When I started as a Rust player way back in the Legacy days, I remember coming across a player for the first time, part of a larger clan. He brought me into the compound that I ended up becoming part of the larger group, and he showed me their furnace room. It looked like a meth lab. It was a room, the perimeter was surrounded with furnaces going at the same time. It was crafting C4, and I just thought, what a baller, what a cool player, and it really made an impression on me. So these furnace rooms are so important, guys, because these are where people congregate, where the magic really happens and where stuff goes on. Rust is a game when you're building these bases, it has a lot of downtime, a lot of very mundane things are occurring, but then there's sporadic periods where things get very intense. But in the time when you're building the base, you're communicating with the members. It's a shame all of it happens in TeamSpeak because players do talk a lot, but playing Rust, you get to know a lot of interesting people. Believe it or not, guys, I've met some people, some great artists, as you already know, from Tat, who's created the channel artwork. All the music in this video was done by a Rust player. One of the largest Thug Life channels is an avid Rust player, and I met some other very interesting people as well. One of the leading brewers in the world plays Rust, brewers of beer. But don't want to go off too much of a tangent. Rust is a game that fascinates a lot of people, and base building is something that is really capturing the minds and hearts of Rust players. So getting back into it, guys, this base here is something that you don't really want to do. It looks like a base that would be hard to raid, and maybe it is a base that's hard to raid, but something that it's very hard to do is defend. You can notice there's already been some players who tried to raid it. They turned a raid tower to stone. Probably it was taking fire, and turning it to stone allowed it to not go down. But this base is one that is essentially one large block, and it's not one that you can defend, so you're going to really be at the mercy of the raiders if they have your doorways locked down, which is going to create a bottleneck for the defenders. Guys, when you watch Rust Cribs, don't think you always need to build a base to have fun in Rust that's going to be some massive base. Look at Magic Carp here. He has a lot of style, a lot of flair. He knows who he is, and he's happy with who he is. He's content with his brand, and he's just having a good time with it. He's going to die soon, and his base is going to get raided very easily, but he's still having a great time. He has a big set of balls because he built right on the edge of the airfield, probably right where he could get building privilege. This is very close to a place that's going to get him a lot of action, but he's Magic Carp, he's putting it out there, and he's just having fun with it. So my point is, guys, you can have fun with Rust even if you're not building some massive compound, but you can build very secure small compounds. Check out some great base builds from other community members. As always, guys, had a lot of fun making this one. Thank you so much for the support. Peace.